everyone, welcome to the Community Classroom. This is Dr. Tracy McCarthy, psychologist, attorney, and educator. And what we're going to be discussing very quickly is the executive order related to freedom of speech, transparency, and accountability related to post-secondary education, colleges and universities. This might also have some eventual impact on education in terms of high school and elementary school, but we're going to actually go over the highlights of this executive order. The entire executive order is inside of the video, so I will slow it down so that you can read it if you would like to read it, so that you don't have to go to the Federal Register, but you can also go to the Federal Register and actually download the entire document. So we're just going to go over the highlights and then you can read the rest of it for yourself. And for those of you who are not aware, an executive order comes down from the White House, from the president. And what this executive order is about, it says the purpose. The purpose of this order is to enhance the quality of post-secondary education by making it more affordable, more transparent, and more accountable. And so this is an executive order that addresses two things at one time. And so it addresses the issue of freedom of speech on campus. And it also addresses the dynamic related to transparency for students and families, and also for accountability on the part of colleges and universities. Now, this executive order was fueled by complaints related to lack of freedom of speech and what's known as academic freedom and freedom of inquiry on college campuses. And so this executive order says it seeks to promote free and open debate on college and university campuses. It indicates that free inquiry is an essential feature of our national democracy. It also comments on the need to have freedom of speech and freedom of inquiry because it promotes learning, scientific discovery, and economic prosperity. And so the executive order also goes on to say that it is the executive branch's duty to encourage institutions to appropriately account for this bedrock principle in the administration of student life, and also to avoid creating environments that stifle competing perspectives. And so they really are pushing this idea that students and faculty and staff on campuses should have this freedom of inquiry because it is the bedrock of education. They also go on to say that by not having freedom of inquiry, it actually impedes beneficial research and it undermines learning across the board. And the second part of the executive order addresses the financial burden of higher education on both students and families. And it has indicated that it has become a national problem. And this is because tuition has continued to increase and student loan debt has continued to increase. However, there's been a low rate in terms of repayment. And the concern is that students are coming out of school not actually ahead, but they are actually behind because they are burdened with this student loan debt. The executive order also addresses the dynamic whereby students are pursuing what they say are programs of study that fail to prepare the students for success in today's job market. The executive order goes on to comment about choosing courses of study that are going to be appropriate. There's also a commentary related to institutions being transparent about the average earnings and loan repayment rates for former students who received financial aid. And additionally, it is indicated that the federal government should make this information readily accessible to the public and to prospective students and their families in particular. And this is additional commentary on accountability, and you can read this at your leisure. And here the executive order spells out that it is the policy of the federal government to encourage institutions to foster environments that promote open, intellectually engaging, and diverse debate, including through compliance with the First Amendment for public institutions and compliance with stated institutional policies regarding freedom of speech for private institutions. And it additionally comments on the need to help students and their families understand through better data and career counseling what they need to do in terms of pursuing successful degrees and fields of study. And this is an interesting commentary because one of the things that the executive order is asserting is that now institutions need to share in the financial risk associated with the federal student loan programs. There's also a commentary about helping students to complete their degrees faster and at a lower cost. And this is additional commentary on improving free inquiry on campuses, and you can read this at your leisure. And this identifies the different agencies that are involved in this particular executive order. And then at the bottom you can see that the compliance is going to be actually tied to financial funding to institutions. And so the not providing that freedom of inquiry may result in not receiving certain federal funds for institutions. And this is additional commentary on improving transparency, and you can read this at your leisure. And this addresses some of the things that should be included in the accountability and transparency plans. And this is additional commentary on the transparency and accountability, and you can read this at your leisure. And this commentary addresses reporting requirements, and you can read that at your leisure. And this gives a timeline for implementation. And so part of the implementation begins on July the 1st. Then you also have within 1 year of the date of this order, the Secretary of Education shall compile information about successful state and institutional efforts to promote students' timely and affordable completion of a post-secondary program of study. And so they are really pushing this idea that colleges and universities need to help students to make it through programs faster and with less expense to the students. And this commentary addresses some ways that students can facilitate a speedier process in terms of completing their degrees. And so it talks about transfer credits and also things like dual enrollment programs. And this is additional commentary you can read at your leisure. And this is just the end of the executive order. This is a historic executive order, and it is one that students need to be familiar with, educators and parents and prospective students. It's very important. It has a number of important points in the executive order related to education, and also some very important points about transparency and accountability, along with the issues related to freedom of speech. Remember, knowledge is power, and if you get a chance, read through the entire executive order for yourself. Take care and see you soon.